The iMore Show is brought to you today by SoftLayer. SoftLayer delivers a cloud built for flexibility. Your business applications and computational workloads are unique, so you deserve cloud resources that meet your specific needs. SoftLayer is an IBM company. In fact, IBM uses SoftLayer as its cloud infrastructure foundation for all IBM cloud products and services. All of our listeners have the opportunity to get $500 of cloud infrastructure by visiting softlayer.com/podcast. Thank you, SoftLayer. It is October 13, 2015, and right now we're going to talk all about new 4K, 5K, and magic things. This is the iMore Show. Joining me as always, we have Serenity Caldwell, fresh from her talk at Coco Love.
Hello. Yes, I'm back in the good old easternly East Coast, although I had a brief sojourn into Philly. It was my first time. Very fun. Got to hang out with a bunch of awesome people, listen to a bunch of fantastic talks, eat my first Philly cheesesteak. All in all, good weekend.
Yeah, and the internet said you did fantastically well in your talk.
Oh, the internet is very nice.
Awesome. So we woke up this morning to find a plethora, well, not a plethora, a new 4K 21.5-inch iMac, an updated 27-inch 5K iMac, and new Magic Trackpad 2, Magic Mouse 2, and an all-new Magic Keyboard.
So many things. So
magical.
Many things. It's a Magic Tuesday, almost a Magic Monday, but sadly Columbus Day. But Magic Tuesday, full of magic accessories and 4K and 5K. All of the Ks.
I have it's funny saying this now, I have last year's, I'm looking at it right now, Retina 5K iMac, and all of a sudden it's kind of staring at me going, Skylake, DCI-P3. So the only real difference, if you do have, like me, last year is suddenly outdated, obsolete, makes me want to cry. No, technology is the worst. iMac, the only difference is you got Skylake processors on the new ones, which are so they've leapt right over Broadwell, went right to Skylake, which means you get the 14 nanometer process and you get the new micro architecture, which is more powerful at a better energy efficiency, but it's a desktop. So I'm not really bemoaning that. But you have DCI-P3 color gamut, which is what they use in digital theaters and projections, and it's about 25% better than the previous color gamut, and it's even better than sRGB, which is the Adobe standard most computers use, Ren. And I'm trying not to look at the computer because it knows I'm looking at it, but I'm not. I could be seeing more reds and greens.
You could. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I think we'll have on our site later today or this week, which is a buying guide. Should you buy this? Should you not? I know for me, I have a 2-year-old iMac, which I was bemoaning about earlier this week, that it can't quite edit 4K video from my new iPhone, and that's kind of a bummer.
Your phone can edit better video than your computer.
My phone is a better editing machine than my high-end 21.5-inch iMac from 2 years ago. And that makes me cry a little bit inside.
That's both awesome and terrible.
Yeah, it is. It is both awesome and terrible. But the good news is I'm going to get a 4K iMac. So I have made that decision. I think if you are still languishing on a non-Retina device, this is a great excuse. Sadly, the 21.5-inch iMacs don't quite get Skylake because the integrated graphics processor that ships with the iMacs is not supported on Skylake yet. So they're on Broadwell, but they're still really fast. Jason Snell actually has a really good review in Macworld where he shows some early preliminary Geekbench scores, and it is, Rene, my 4K iMac will soon outpace your 5K iMac, which in some categories.
This is the perils of technology. It was that very old Bloom County cartoon where Opus goes to the store to buy the new Banana Junior computer, and you pick up the computer, you go to the cash register, you pay, and then there's a garbage can next to it called obsolete, and you just dump it in right away and go back to the line. And there is a little bit of that, but that 4K, I don't know what's going on with Intel. This TikTok thing has turned into a tick.
Yeah, it's
talk. Maybe no, not really, not a talk yet. Okay,
sort of.
Yeah, but I mean the Broadwell chip that is in there is really good. It just came out. Some people call it Broadwell point, like Broadwell 2 or something.
It's like not Broadwell Y. That's the low power version.
Yeah, but it's like the revved version of Broadwell that they managed to get out this summer, and it's a really good chip. And again, it's a desktop, so the power. I know I feel terrible about this, and every watt does count, but I'm less paranoid about it on desktop than I am on laptops.
Yeah, I completely understand that. You know what? I'm pretty psyched even without the Skylake. I think that Broadwell is still going to be a very big improvement upon my Mac, which I'm looking at my system processes right now. It says something, by the way, that I no longer really think about specs on my computer. It's just, this is a computer. It's fast. It works. Until I actually need to do it for something like this. Yeah, this is an Intel Core i5 from mid 2012, late 2012, excuse me. So it'll be a pretty good boost. And also it's going to have a little bit more RAM, which is exciting. It's going to have a better graphics card. I'm still lingering on the NVIDIA GeForce, so I'm looking forward to that process, that graphics processor, even if it isn't integrated.
Yeah, and Intel's doing something weird this year because they had such a hard time getting Broadwell out because it was the 14 nanometer architecture, and that is incredibly tiny, is that they're not doing their usual TikTok. They're doing TikTok talk. And after Skylake, we're getting Kaby Lake, which I keep wanting to say like something like Cupcake or something for that because it sounds so close. But Kaby Lake, so we're going to be on the 14 nanometer process for a while. So again, I think unless you're a super nerd and you know exactly what features of those chipsets you want, and there's no Thunderbolt 3 on the new 27-inch iMac either, which is one of the things that people wanted Skylake for, but it's still not ready yet either. I think it's kind of a wash. It's like if you're in the market for an iMac, these are just good chips on these iMacs.
They're great, and again, it's unless you are very, very specs driven, or you're in a super high professional field, this is going to be pretty great for you. And honestly, if you're in a professional field and looking at iMac, you're probably looking at the 5K, which has Skylake anyway.
Yep. And that new color gamut that my iMac is trying really hard not to look at me with.
I can't wait to see what that looks like. I've heard I've heard very, very good things.
Yeah, so what they're doing is the traditional LED backlights are blue bias. They use blue phosphor LEDs. And what they did is they added red and green phosphor LEDs to it to sort of bring out more of those colors. So as a result, you get to color gamuts are really weird, and the human eye is just really weird. But you'll get to see more greens and more reds and everything that you look at.
Yeah, I am very stoked. And also, I mean, that's going to be helpful for not only enjoying movies and enjoying, content, but also for making content. If you're a photo editor or if you're a video editor, this is going to be huge. Just seeing more of the spectrum and also having the spectrum more closely matched to, as you said earlier, the DCI index. I think it's going to be great.
So nice. They've got a new low-end Fusion drive option. So the Fusion drive is when you have a traditional hard disk platter and you also have some amount of flash storage. And what they do is sort of like Nearline, what they do with the photos, but instead of being online and up in the cloud, you have the sort of Nearline component on the slower traditional media and the online component, the fast component on the flash drive. And then it intelligently sorts things that you are more important, more frequently accessed, and more recent onto the SSD, and leaves the things that are less important, less frequently accessed, and older on the larger capacity hard drive. And they really want to give you the best of both worlds. And in this case, it's a cheaper 1 terabyte hard drive with 24 gigabytes of flash, which they say is enough to store all the OS X launch files, the apps you launch most, and like a couple of your most recent documents.
I'm grumpy about that. I kind of feel like it should ship with a high. First of all, I think the baseline model should ship with Fusion Drive. Yes. I understand why they did it, and I understand they're trying to cut costs so that they can provide a more entry level device without the price of a Retina device. But it stinks, Apple. It's the equivalent of 16 gigs, where this is designed for a certain subset of people who only have a price limit of this much. And if you want something a little bit better, you can always build to order. But it does bum me out that, especially the 21.5 inch iMac, the only model that they're selling of the 21.5 inch iMac is without build to order is this baseline thing. Whereas with the Retina iMac, they're selling 3, a low, mid, and a high level configuration. And if you want anything custom on the 21.5, you have to fiddle with it on the online store and wait an extra week or two, which is, I've been building to order Macs my entire life. So I'm not too surprised. I wasn't expecting to get a day one iMac, but at the same time, Apple, maybe a $14.99 and a $17.99 model, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I would like that too. I think that would make a lot because you like on the laptops, there's always at least a couple different variants,
Yeah.
and maybe there will be a couple like a couple configurations in retail stores that we don't see online because they sometimes do that. But it does make sense to if you're going to buy 30 or 100 iMacs and put them on the desks of every startup in your building or whatever, that's fine. But again, for normal people, having that option that you can just go and say, I know I don't want a hard drive, I want something else. What can you give me, and not have to assemble it all by yourself as a bonus.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the other thing that I was actually commenting on to you before the show is that the when you spec out a 21.5-inch iMac, you actually get dangerously close to a mid to high level iMac and the 27-inch model, which is kind of crazy. So for my, the build that I ended up ordering, I kept the processor the same because I don't think the i7 is that big enough of a boost for what I want to do. But I bumped the RAM up to 16 gigs and I got a 2 terabyte Fusion drive, which is an extra, I think, couple $100. And that put the price pretty close to $2,300, $2,400 with tax and shipping. So and that, like, compare that to a mid-level 27-inch iMac, which has a better graphics card, and still ships with a crummy amount of RAM, to be honest. But even when you upgrade the RAM to 16 gigs, like the specs are very, very similar. So it really, I like, as someone who really wanted a 21.5-inch iMac, I actually don't like the sheer the sheer amount of 27-inch space. I was content to spend my money on a 21 versus a 27. But for people who are considering, oh, well, do I, what is the best for your money? I have to look into it a little bit more, but my early gut is kind of saying the 27 actually might be the better choice for people who want to spec out their machine or want a more high-end machine, unless you specifically need the 21.5-inch smaller screen.
This is the game theory in action. This is what they do with pricing models, and this is across all businesses. But Apple's always been great at it. It's just, here's it, but just for $100 more you could get this, and just for $100 more you could get that. And it's such small increments, and it's such easy decisions to make because they are such small increments. And then it's like, and I went through this every time with the MacBook Pros when I was ordering those for years. And then, oh, you can just move up to this one then, and you get the same thing, but even more for the same amount. And it's such an incredibly slippery slope, except it's slippering up, not down.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I totally understand why they're doing it. But for me, there was a bit of a like, oh, should I have gotten a 27?
I know.
No, Serenity, you don't like 27-inch Macs. You'll be cranky.
And the other thing that's interesting is,
desktop.
yeah, it's not quite 4K. It's like 4.25K or something, because it's not the 2160p. I forget the number, but it's 22 something. So you have slightly more space than 4K. It's
4.25K.
4.2. Yeah, it's 2.5 instead of just doubling the previous iMac. They did 2.5 times. So you do have room for 4K and a few maybe palette options or a bit of interface chrome on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a huge bonus, because once your whole screen is taken up by video, you start to miss that stuff.
Oh yeah, no question.
So the RAM in the 21-inch is still not user accessible. In the 27-inch, you can upgrade your own RAM. It comes with, of course, two 4 gigabyte sticks in the in both slots, but you can upgrade those to 16 gigabytes each, so 32 total. I don't think much else has changed, except it's Retina across the line now. You can no longer get a non-Retina 27-inch iMac, though you can still get two configurations of non-Retina 21-inch iMac.
Yeah. iMac. I didn't know that this is a silly, bad Mac user, Serenity, but I didn't know that the RAM was user configurable in the 27 versus the 21.
Yeah, I forget.
Now you're making me debate my choices even further.
Oh no, this is the worst. Yeah, but it is that hard. It's like iPad Mini versus iPad Air. It's just, they do it to us all the time. Yeah. 6S versus 6S Plus.
You notice there's no longer a Vespa mount option going through this. I was thinking about that.
If it's the same as a 27-inch, and I forgot to check this, I think you have to order it at the time. It's a physically different case, and you order it when you.
Well, that's what I thought normally, but there's no option this time, at least going through the new and revised version of the Mac ordering process. There's no button that says I'd like to make it VESA mount.
Interesting.
So I don't know. Readers, we will look into that, whether or not
Yes.
that means that maybe it's actually compatible out of the box again, which would be awesome. I don't think it probably is, but still, I'm hoping.
What's interesting is we've just spent 20 minutes talking or gushing a little bit, but talking, some chiding about desktop Macs, and we're clearly in the era of laptop Macs, right? What's going on?
We are in the post PC era, according to 10 million people. You know what? Desktops have their purpose. Especially, here's the thing. Laptops are phenomenal. I adore my 11-inch MacBook Air, which is hiding back there. And I'm sure I will eventually upgrade to a MacBook or an iPad Pro, and also really love them. I love the portability. I love the battery life. The fact that I can basically do most of my work, including editing on a tiny little computer, is awesome. But if you work in an office, or if you work in a job, or if you do anything that requires you to be at a desk for longer than 2 hours, you're probably going to want a bigger screen, and you're probably going to want the option to use a bigger screen, especially if you're doing any kind of work that is visual in any matter. Because it's nice to have all of that extra space. In fact, I've started using split view with my 21.5-inch iMacs. It's actually really nice to have sort of the multiple spaces and the dedicated space time, but also have, I can swipe, I can click, I can zoom and whoosh. And I'm just going to start making sounds now. But no, I think that the desktop Mac still has a place in certain industries. Will that continue to be the case? Probably for a while, until Apple figures out how to make or Intel figures out how to make a processor that is so powerful that you'll be able to, the 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro kind of comes close to it, but it's still kind of heavy. So until there's a point at which we're like, yes, we can have all the power of the desktop and we can put it in an itsy bitsy living space, I'm guessing that we'll probably not see everybody switching over to laptops. The desktop still has a use.
I'm just waiting for my Apple Singularity, where I buy this little marble that has a glowing thing inside to keep it in my pocket, and then I pick up any piece of glass, and my entire user experience is magically teleported into the glass that I'm holding or looking at.
It's more than magic. It's Apple.
Yeah, speaking of which, so to go along with these new Macs, we now have new Magic accessories. I have the older generation one that I've been using. Like I have not used a mouse, and people say, "Is there anything you don't like about Apple?" I have never liked an Apple mouse.
I'm sorry, Apple mouses are kind of. I actually like the hockey puck mouse, but only because I thought it was cool looking, not because I thought it was functionally amazing or anything like that.
I have a graveyard over there. I can't reach it because of my headset, but I have a graveyard of Apple mice. Yeah, that I just and I've been using
the mouse graveyard.
But I worked in graphic design for a long time, and I always used trackpads or Wacom tablets because I just didn't like the mouse. And I've liked other brands of mouse, but it just never enough to bother using them because I was fine with the trackpad. And I've used a Magic Trackpad with this iMac since I've got it. And well, let's go through them one by one. So first we have the Magic keyboard, which is all new, and it looks the new design. The old ones have these sort of I'll hold one up. This is one of the old keyboards. So the old ones have this design where they have, and the trackpad is the same. Yeah, so they have like the cylinder with the plane on top of it, and they have room for batteries. The new ones are just wedges, and they have a lower profile. They're solid. There's no bezel around the keys now. And it's just smaller, but also it's now no longer batteries required, Ren, but it charges over lightning cable, just like the Apple TV remote.
So awesome. You know what? I was glad that Apple for a long time was kind of pushing the rechargeable battery initiative where, don't throw away your AA batteries and waste 1 billion of them on your wireless accessories. We can provide you with wireless batteries and a really nice wireless battery or rechargeable battery charger. And now they've made it even easier because Lightning is, it's a desktop Mac. It's always going to be plugged into power. So all you need to do is keep one Lightning cable on the desk, and then you can just go boop, keyboard, boop, mouse, boop. And at least for me, I don't know about anybody else, but my keyboard and my mouse always discharge at different times. So it's even better. It's something like 2 minutes of charge time, either on the keyboard or on the mouse. I think on the mouse gets you 9 hours.
Yeah, so That's actually a controversy today. We can get into that. So the keyboard, well, first of all, they are Lightning and not USB-C, and that will bum some people out. But Lightning is Apple's jam, and it's the same group of people helped design them both, so they're very similar. And I like the fact that, you know, as an Apple user, I have umpteen Lightning cables here, and it can be charging my iPad or my iPhone, and then like a transformer, just go right and charge my. I got to get on the sound effects thing. It's going to go right into charging my keyboard. So the keyboard, it has the Lightning plug at the back of it, so you can just plug it in when it does discharge. You can just plug it in and keep using it while it's charging. The new Magic Mouse is on the bottom, so you can't charge it while you're using it. And yeah, this is absolutely suboptimal. In a perfect world, this would be on the back, and you could use it the way you could use a wired mouse. But to make up for this, you know, because Apple's not stupid. You may disagree with their decisions, but they do weigh these things. And because of the way the internals work, this was just the best place for them to put the port. And maybe in the future that'll change, but it'll do rapid charging. So you plug it in for 2 minutes, and you have about enough charge to last for a typical 9-hour day. And then you just plug it in again at night. And friend of the show, Craig Hockenberry, was pointing out that 2 minutes perfectly coincides with your stand-up time on your watch anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's not great. It would be better if it was on the side, but they did a lot to mitigate that. They had to, at least for now, put it on the bottom.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's interesting that they do have the keyboard charging from the back and the mouse charging from the bottom. In that, all right. So I suspect that in general, it's a lot easier for the keyboard to be wired, and
Yes.
especially with the crazy chunking, like where the Taptic engine needs to be and everything like that. I bet it just didn't. There just wasn't a functional way to make it work, which sucks. But hopefully Apple will figure that out, and the next version of the Magic Trackpad will be great. I imagine it really was down to something like, you know how both the Magic Keyboard and the Magic Mouse, they line up oh so nicely so that they're flush. And I bet that they would have probably had to make the Magic Trackpad slightly thicker if they
Well, it's
wanted
not the
to put it on
trackpad.
back.
It's not the trackpad. It's the mouse. And
Oh, the mouse
trackpad
itself, the trackpad has it on the back?
I believe so. So the trackpad and the keyboard are both wedges, so they have a large back surface. Where the mouse, Apple's made it sort of this
The
rounded.
mouse shims. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
even more sense. Okay.
So
Yeah,
they
I
would
was
have
gonna
to
say, there's
cut
just no
into
there's
it.
no internal space there. Well, for the trackpad there, that makes even more sense. Yeah, mouse, whatever. Who uses mice?
Stop. If you're using a mouse right now,
I'm just writing it off. I'm sorry, folks who use Apple mice.
no. If you're using a mouse right now, let's start with your bad decisions before we get to Apple's. No, just
You
kidding.
know, there are actually plenty of reasons to use a mouse. I actually have an old Mac Alley up here for my occasional Heroes of the Storm addiction. Like if you're a gamer or if you're somebody who needs multi-buttons, totally makes sense to have a mouse. No problem. But, you know, for daily, everyday activities, and also if you want Force Touch, you want the Magic Trackpad. The new updates to iMovie and everything else. Serious. I mean, I feel like are they still calling it Force Touch? Have they not?
Yes.
Are we keeping it separate? Is the watch and the Mac Force Touch and the iPhone 3D Touch? Because that really.
Well, yeah. So they're basing and this might not be the best choice, but they're basing it on the technology. The technology in the Magic Trackpad 2 is identical to the technology in the trackpad in the MacBook, and they're calling that Force Touch and Force Click. And it's the same thing. It's got 4 sensors in it. Those 4 sensors measure. It's not like the iPhone. The iPhone uses an LED backlight to measure microscopic changes in the glass when you press in the surface. This actually has 4 physical sensors in it that you press down on, and then it has the Taptic engine at the bottom that tries to give you sort of the physical click response. And there's actually I didn't notice this, but in El Capitan they updated the preferences, and there's a muting for the click now. It turns out that part of that click was just a sound file that they were playing. Like you'll still hear a little bit. Yeah, you'll still hear a little bit if you turn it off, but it's much softer. If you turn it back on, it sounds like a MacBook click. And there's such an illusionary, like just again, like as much as I feel like my fingers were lying to me when I used that trackpad, my ears have now been lying to me as well. It's absurd, but yeah, it's identical. It's identical usage.
All of the trickery has been used to create these wonderful things, and I'm really, you know, I want to play with them though. They're not in stock yet at Apple stores, either in Canada or the US. You got to wait a couple days. It turns out that Apple retail seems to have been just as surprised as we were to find out new goodies.
Yeah, the press release said today, so I ran over there expectingly, and they're like, "Well, first, dude, you're Canadian, so no. But second, we don't have it."
You never get first day items. Let me tell you.
They're sitting at the border at Niagara Falls. They're sipping on a drink. They'll be here when they're good and ready. All right, so the Magic Keyboard we went through, the Magic Mouse. The Magic Mouse does not have the force press. It does have the usual multi-touch stuff that it's had for a while, but this trackpad is full on force press, and there's a lot of things you can do with it. Like you click and then click deeper to preview the way you do on the iPhone. So if there's a map or a website or a data detector link or a flight tracker or a shipment tracker, you just press deeper into that, and it pops up and previews it. And I've been using it. It's been 6 months already on the new MacBook, and it's really convenient. Once you get used to it, you're kind of odd when it's not there. You miss it, the same as the iPhone. But also because it's not a real physical thing, that the last few generations of trackpad have been hinged, so they've been super clicky at the bottom, not clicky at all at the top. And this new Magic Trackpad, just like the Magic Trackpad, no, sorry, the Force Touch Trackpad, so many names. Force Touch Trackpad on the MacBook and MacBooks Pro, you can click it anywhere again, and it's kind of a super cool feeling.
Yeah, I love using those kinds of faux clickery. I am a little surprised that they did not try and integrate Force Touch into the mouse. Going back to my consternation of mice. It's a new mouse. It's being marketed as a new mouse, but it really doesn't have much of anything except for a new slimmer design.
Yeah, I'm not sure because the design I think is the thing because I don't know how I have to break out my old Magic Mouse, and it seems like force press you really need to be able to do it over a surface area, and I don't know how it would work on it. That'd be interesting. I'm sure they could figure it out, but it would be a translate. I think even more of a intermediation from the direct manipulation of the trackpad and iPhone.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I do think it would be more of a challenge, especially because we have a curved surface here and not a flat surface. But I'm like, why? Now it just makes the mouse even less of a first class citizen on the Mac, which is kind of a bummer. I say that hating Apple mice, but still kind of a bummer. However, I mean, the Magic Trackpad is what, $59 more?
Yeah, it's $50 more, and so the new iMac comes with the Magic Keyboard and the Magic Mouse too. But if you want to, you can pay the difference and swap to a Magic Trackpad too.
Yes, this is true. In
Force
fact,
Touch Boogaloo. Can I call it that?
Force Touch Trackpad, yeah.
No, Magic Trackpad 2, Force Touch Boogaloo.
Yes, let's do that.
That might be a show title. We'll see.
I approve.
Yeah, so I think we're entering this era of Force Touch or 3D Touch, and it is super strange because on the Mac it seems less certain still. Like what I do with it, some of the stuff makes total sense, like deeper clicking to get that preview. It feels just like that sort of fold in interface time and space that does on the iPhone, and pressing on QuickTime to speed up the fast forwarding process, and getting a little haptic tick feeling when you level a photo perfectly, or when you go past a certain like normal speed on an acceleration path. I think all of that is great. I'm not sure I've learned it all or deeply ingrained it all yet, but that might just be because all my Macs don't have it yet.
Yeah, I really do think that this is going to be dependent on third-party software developers and more of Apple's default apps incorporating Force Touch and various Force Touch actions. Right now, it feels gimmicky. It doesn't feel lived in. And 3D Touch on the iPhone 6s felt a little bit like that until we started getting we started getting third-party apps. As soon as I started getting third-party apps, that's like, oh, contextual presses and quick actions and swipe ups and all of that stuff, it suddenly made the feature not only, oh, I'm going to use this occasionally, but oh, I'm going to use this all the time. I think we're a little bit behind on the Mac. In part because a lot of people, when it was only the MacBook users that had that functionality, the Force Touch functionality, then, that's a very small audience for developers to focus on. Now that the trackpad is essentially available for every Mac computer that can run OS 10 El Capitan, now developers have a real incentive to be like, now we can put in Force Touch shortcuts. Now we have that incentive because so many people are going to potentially be using these products and asking us to put them in.
Yeah, all right, so hold that thought because that's actually a super interesting line of thinking there. I'm going to just do one more sponsor read, and that is Red Hat tried tested, trusted, for a little thing called the internet. So at this point, everyone understands that in the right situations, open source software is important technology. It's useful. It's powerful. We know this. On OS 10, we're using something based on BSD Unix. We're using the Darwin kernel. We're using WebKit, which powers Safari, which Google forked into Blink. We're using tons of open source technology every day. No one really disagrees with that. The most successful open source project of all time was something called the internet. Tim Berners-Lee put it together, the www and the public put www in the public domain. There's just the list goes on and on. Android, Linux, all these things, they're open source. The only people disagree about is whether open source works in the enterprise, and that's because open source is cheaper, but technically doesn't come with the support, or traditionally doesn't come with the support that proprietary software does. But Red Hat has been doing that, has been changing that for years, one customer at a time for over a decade. They started with Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and today they certify and support application development, storage, cloud infrastructure for every conceivable enterprise deployment, and more. My old enterprise company, we used some Microsoft stuff, we used some purely open source stuff, and we used some Red Hat stuff because there was a point where we needed open source software, but we wanted it to have support. And that's what Red Hat provided. So why? They get powerful, constant improving innovation of open source without the risk of having to do it alone. And that includes a lot of the Global 500, Fortune 500, all of them Red Hat customers. It's that simple. Red Hat enterprise software is trusted in the world's most demanding data centers. Find out what Red Hat can do for you at redhat.com. Thank you, Red Hat. So, Ren, yeah, you said that, and that just clicked with me because one of the things that is so cool about Apple is that they have such a big footprint. We've seen Samsung and some other companies do interesting stuff with like hover states and multi-window technology, but they could only ever put it in their own apps. They weren't going in the core Google apps, and the core Google apps are what everyone on Android uses. So it's sort of this fractured experience all the time. But Apple puts 3D Touch into the iPhone, and immediately it's on 13 million just brand newly sold iPhones. And everyone, like Facebook, just updated, and they're traditionally really slow to update. And I think that means just what you said. We are going to get a lot of support for this stuff.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward. The sooner the better.
The drawing apps, right? You're waiting for the drawing apps.
Actually, I got really excited this weekend as I was coming home from Coco Love. This is the first time that I have ever solely taken notes on an iOS device during a conference. Usually I love my Moleskines, my field notes, I usually like paper and pen and paper, and I'll do lots of little doodles. People have probably, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see me posting them now and again. But this time around, I'm like, you know what? I have a Jot Dash that I've been testing from a Donut, which is not pressure sensitive, but just a really nice feeling pencil stylus. And I have the iPhone 6s Plus, and I'm going to attempt to, just sketch and take my notes and do my doodles in the Notes app. And that was incredible. And once I got addicted to doing that, and I'm like, this actually feels like drawing, like actual drawing on paper. And it doesn't feel messy, and it doesn't feel like I can't control the strokes or the lines or anything like that. And even though the lag isn't as good as hopefully like an iPad Pro, the lag will be non-existent, it still was light years beyond anything that I'd done on an iPad before. So in sort of that vein of thinking, on my train ride home, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to put out a call out on Twitter and see who's working on Force Touch pressure sensitivity, if anybody, because people should be, because it's awesome. And I actually got quite a few responses from a variety of folks, including people whose apps I'd never heard of. So I'm really excited to kind of dig through those in the next couple days, maybe put together a roundup for folks once the apps in question launch, because yeah, the pressure sensitivity drawing is incredible. Now, with the Magic Trackpad, it's still a little weird because you still have to draw with your finger. I mean, I guess theoretically you could use a stylus on a Magic Trackpad, but that just reminds me of the days when I was 9 and attempting to use my dad's Palm stylus on the MacBook or the PowerBook trackpad, thinking that was so smart.
I wonder how different it would be than a Wacom. I can remember those little the horrible first generation bamboos.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it might be like that. You're right. It might be like that.
I just had a flash because you mentioned, and we should say that your iPhone 6S review is live, and it's terrific, and everybody should read it. But one of the things that you dug into was the levels of pressure sensitivity.
Yes, well, and when I say it, dug into, what I really did was I tapped Peter Skinner over at 10.1 Design, and he looked into the levels of pressure sensitivity. They were doing some tests, and they found out that the iPhone 6S Plus and 6S have over 400 levels of pressure sensitivity, which is low if you're used to working on a Wacom tablet. Wacom kind of does the 256, 512, 10 and 1080,
1024, I think.
2024. Yeah, sorry. Early morning brain. But yeah,
So much.
but Apple, like the fact that Apple has so many levels of pressure sensitivity in their first iOS 3D Touch project, when really they could have probably gotten away, given what they wanted to do, they probably could have gotten away with like 20.
Yeah, and it's a new technology. They're not using Wacom style digitizers at all.
They aren't. They're using a crazy sort of pressure sensing screen, which I can't even begin to explain because I don't have the math or the engineering for it. But I'm really excited that they decided, you know what, in addition to 3D Touch, we are going to make pressure sensitive drawing an option. And we're going to not only that, we're going to integrate it into Notes as a proof of concept so that everyone has an example of what this could do and how this could work. And once that kind of got started, it just, I don't know, it gets me really excited. It gets me thrills that that's a potential.
Yeah, and just because we both spent some time doodling in the Notes app. I haven't tried it with a stencil yet. Sorry, with a stylus yet, but I should because it would just seem even more like drawing to me. And it really does work well. And with the iPad Pro coming, like we saw the Surface, the new Surfaces, and they have an eraser on the back, which is kind of cool. I'm used to those from Wacom, but I would never really use them because functionally turning a pencil around and erasing I was just used to the computer thing, pick eraser tool and do it because my brain was wired that way. But what blew me away about the Apple stylus, and people who aren't familiar with this, I got a list about 900 items long from Serenity to test while I was on the show floor. And one of them was like cross hatching and shading. And because there's tilt support in the Apple Pencil, you really can put it horizontally and shade just like really like a real pencil. It's phenomenal. And that sort of thing you can't really do yet on an iPhone, but just the ability to have like their Magic Piano from Smule updated with pressure sensitivity. There's the Animal Alphabet where you press harder on the letters and they kind of jump up and down and yell at you. And there's games that are doing are doing pressure sensitivity to turn harder or in a sharper curve. And it's really interesting where all this is going. And they're putting it on the Mac, on the iPad, on the iPhone, and again, hundreds of millions of devices eventually, which means a huge amount of developer support.
Yeah, without question.
And they have new, I forgot to mention this, I should add this back on the thing, but at WWDC, it's in the El Capitan review, they added APIs for developers. And as far as I can recall, you have sort of like, and I'm making a finger diagram for people just listening, which is maddening, but whatever. You have sort of, if you imagine a straight line, diagonal line, you can actually pull out little points for resistance. So you can say, like, for example, there's just a double click, a click and a deeper click on some things. But on the fast forward, for example, there's like 5 layers of deep clicking. And you can pull these out to suit your application. That means that we'll get stuff we haven't even thought about yet. And that's what I think is really exciting.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see. I mean, I've said this 10 million times, but I really cannot wait to see what developers are doing. I think that the most, the most powerful innovation comes from developers taking the initial tools that Apple's put together and being like, all right, how can we subvert these and mess these around to make them even better?
They're like DJs. They're just mixing everything. All right, one last break, and then we're going to talk some Apple Watch stuff. We are brought to you today by lynda.com, the online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skill. Lynda.com is for problem solvers, for the curious, people who want to make things happen. Maybe you want to master the new Office. Maybe you want to learn negotiation tactics. Maybe you want to build a website, boost your Photoshop skills. Go to lynda.com and feed your curious mind. Lynda.com it's really awesome. And I've talked before about how I was using it to try to learn Logic because I was shamed into moving off of GarageBand by Jason Snell and Dave Wiskus. No hostility there. And I've been using it to sort of catch up on photography because Serenity took my camera and put it in all sorts of modes that I really didn't know how to use. I had to try to figure those out. And I've shot in aperture priority before, but I want to try to shoot in full on manual. And There's no classes near here, so I can't go and just do that. But lynda.com is everywhere. It's anywhere I need it to be. And if I have a specific question, I don't have to just go through an entire 12-month course. I can just look for that question and find the answer. You can watch and learn from top experts who are passionate about teaching. You can stream thousands of video courses on demand and learn at your own schedule. You can learn at your own pace. They're structured so you can watch them from start to finish or consume them in bite-sized pieces. You can browse each course transcript, follow along, search for an answer, skip to any point, take notes, download them to your iOS. So download and watch tutorials, watch them on the go, including on iPhones, iPads, Android devices. You can create and save. The list goes on and on. So your lynda.com membership will give you unlimited access to training on hundreds of topics, all for one low rate. Whether you're looking to become an industry expert, you're passionate about a hobby, or you just want to learn something new, I want you to visit lynda.com/iMore. Sign up for your free 10-day trial. That's lynda.com/IMORE. So Serenity.
Yes.
So much the rose gold.
So much the gold.
And I actually put I actually put the Superman on it.
Oh, nice. I did not. I have the modular face.
And does yours come with a matching? Does your watch come with a? So when I turned it on, it was the modular watch face with a special rose gold color.
Oh, well, so I restored mine from an Apple Watch backup. So I suspect that I messed it up that way. But I bet if I had done it from new, that I too would have had the same thing. Because those smarty engineers at Apple are sneaky like that.
Here, let's see. I think I have it here. I'll gotta turn it back on again. There.
Displaying is very difficult.
There we go. There's the rose gold modular.
Very nice.
It matches, and the gold, yes, it is not the 18 karat rose gold because that costs, I don't know, $15,000.
More than more. Well, I was always gonna say more than my house, but that's not true. But
no,
more
it feels like
more than many things. Yes.
By ounce. Yeah. So absolutely, seriously, this is an anodized rose gold, and it matches the color of this incredibly rose gold. And I'm holding this up and trying to get the lighting going on here. And it looks gold, not rose gold right now. But that's because it's a color that dwarfs expectations.
Yes, it's true. It is a very it's a chameleon.
Yes.
Colors.
Yeah, it's true because it looks pink sometimes, it looks rose gold sometimes, it looks copper, it looks silver, it looks gold. But the first thing I noticed is that wearing the sport watch, it is so much lighter than my black steel with black link bracelet watch, Ren. My arm felt like it weighed half as much.
You know what? So I had a steel watch from Apple to test for a while, and I have to admit, I wore it maybe for a week, and then I just swapped the bands and was testing bands for the rest of the time because I prefer the sport. I like the weight of the sport. I think the steel is too heavy for me, which is weird. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, well, you just get used to it," and I'm sure I would eventually, but I do so much with my hands. I talk with my hands. I type with my hands. I write with my hands.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. But no, I feel like I move my hands around too much to have that much weight on my wrist kind of just blend in. I also have, tiny, skinny, little sad wrists. So I think that's an extra weight for me that maybe guys or ladies with bigger wrists may not notice. But I prefer the sport. So I'm glad you're coming, not necessarily coming around, but I'm glad you're experiencing my way of living because my way of living is great.
Yeah, and it's I paired it with I tried a bunch of different band combinations. I put up a bunch of pictures on them, and this is with the blue, the original blue, not the new midnight blue, but the original blue leather loop. And I quite like the look. I liked it with a lot of the different bands.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of shooting my, gold with different bands, and it looks great with pretty much everything, which I was surprised about. Even so, I'm wearing it with the modern buckle right now, and I have to admit the silver modern buckle is a little weird against the gold, but thankfully you can't see both at the same time. The lugs are not too bad. Showing people right now the difference between the silver lugs and the gold. Again, it looks almost like a design choice rather than a mismatch, which I find really nice.
It's so that was one of people's questions, and one of my questions too is whether these stainless steel lugs would look odd with the rose gold or whatever case. And that's one of the things that I've been asked a lot because I have the space black case normally, and it really does stand out because they go so far into the case. And it's fine. I don't prefer it. I prefer the leather loops in the sports because the color of the band goes all the way through, and then it looks like one piece. It doesn't look interrupted by a piece of stainless steel in the middle. But I don't find it horrible if it is there. So I took some pictures of the Milanese loop with the rose gold, and I'm going to put that up later today.
Yeah. Oh, I've got to do that as well. Yeah, I'm in the middle of taking. I've been wearing it mostly with the modern buckle, but the sport band that it came with, this antique white sport band, looks great with it. It looks great with most of the other sport bands. It looks great with the midnight blue modern buckle.
Oh, so
Looks good
nice.
with the Milanese. It's a nice little statement. And, I think I like it a little bit. I like the gold a little bit better than the traditional aluminum.
So did you? So this one came with a stone band originally, and I should have brought it, but I was not that smart. Then it has a rose gold pin on it. Does the band that came with your watch have a gold pin?
Yes, it does.
Mm.
But only so you can't buy
No.
them with a gold pin. You can only get the de facto band that comes with, which goes back to Apple's idea of collections and how that all integrates together.
Yeah, so this one is stone for the 42 millimeter and lavender for the 38 millimeter.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. I've been really enjoying testing out the different colors, and we got to do a face off between aluminum silver, aluminum gold, and aluminum rose gold.
Yeah, and don't forget the space gray. That's a contender still.
And the space gray. Too many colors.
I know, and they match all the new iPhone colors. Coincidence? I think not.
Oh no. Although I do. So here's a question for you. For me, the rose gold Apple Watch, I was a little skeptical on wearing it because it looked too purple to me. Is it really the same color as the new iPhone? Is it more of that sort of light coppery?
Yeah, they're identical. I mean, it's hard to make them look identical because the shape is such on the watch that it reflects light differently.
Very different, yeah.
Yeah, the colors are identical, but the reflections often look different. The only one that's really different is the space black on the watch is way darker than the space black on the phone. But I think the gold and the rose gold, they actually got really close. Which is odd because space gray is hard to anodize, and you can tell because every generation and every product seems to do it slightly differently.
Yeah. Actually, funny enough, I've been testing some third-party bands, and a friend of mine, friend of the show, Rich Stevens, just got a space gray Milanese loop that he apparently likes quite a bit. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's not so far no rubbing, no dissolution of colors. So fingers crossed that will continue to be the case. And if it is, there's another black band option for you, Rene."
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how secret it is, but Apple's been testing DLC Milanese bands for a while, and you'll occasionally see them in Cupertino if you look really carefully. But they haven't held up. DLC is super hard, but if anything does happen to it, you outside of a Sharpie, you can't fix it. And Apple's not going to ship a product. It goes back, and we can talk about this in a second, but it goes back to if Apple can't ship a product, they'll just trash them. They don't want to get them out of the market because the long-term value of their brand is more important to them than any one product.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so maybe we'll mention that quickly. There was this brouhaha. There was a couple of brouhahas lately. I'm getting so tired. It's just exhausting. The internet brouhahas. Yeah, no,
people have to be mad about something. They couldn't find anything about the 6S. Oh, so except they, the chips.
Yeah, so this is a quote unquote air hashtag. I'm gonna do an air hashtag. That's how silly it is. Air hashtag Chipgate.
Chipgate.
There were a couple tests using Geekbench 3's battery test, which is what do they call it? Not an artificial, but there's a synthetic test that basically runs a processor doing a specified task over and over again, and then tries to measure the battery drain from it. And under those conditions, I should back up for a second. So Apple has traditionally sourced their chips from Samsung. Last year for the Apple A8, they went with Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, TSMC. This year, and that resulted in some shortages. Like people noticed not all Apple products got the A8 last year, and that's because they couldn't make enough. Not all Apple products. Some people think that Apple holds back features for one product for another. If they could, they would put everything everywhere. But the reality is manufacturing hundreds of millions of devices means that all your resources go to those devices, and you don't have enough Touch ID sensors for the iPads year one. Or the Taptic engines, one of the companies doesn't make them so well, so you have to literally trash tons of Taptic engines, and a bunch of watches get delayed. And this is the reality that they deal with. So they dual source the processor from Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company and Samsung Electronic Company. And these companies use different processes. So Samsung uses a 14 nanometer process. TSMC uses TSMC uses
TSMC,
a
yep.
16 nanometer process. That doesn't really mean anything. Those are both kind of brand names, but they are different processes, and that means the results will be different. But Apple needs them to be within the same parameters for the iPhone. And some people think that there's a bad chip, and it's more like if in order to qualify for the Olympics, you have to run 100 meters in 9 seconds. Then if you run it in 8.95 and someone else runs it in 8.97, you both qualify. That's fine. If you run it in over 9, no good. They trash you. But these chips all passed Apple standards, and Apple standards are real-world battery life tests. And under those conditions, there's like a 2 or 3% variance, which is something that can occur even within the same batch of processors from the same manufacturer, and something that is, and the variances you get on being on one cell tower or another, or a different connectivity between two of your devices can drain battery far faster than that. So it's really not a thing. But the internet being the internet, you know, and understandably, not everyone is a platform engineer. I'm certainly not a platform engineer, and these things are tricky. But it ended up making a lot of people very anxious and stressed over which chip they got, which is something no normal human should ever have to worry about. If you're an ultra geek, you've been doing this for years. You know, which panel did I get in my MacBook? Because Apple's used multiple panel manufacturers in the past, and they've sourced different components like Taptic engines from different manufacturers. But it's nothing any normal person needs to worry about and shouldn't be worried about, and does not deserve to be stressed out about. Because again, and you know, lo and behold, a couple people have now done better tests, and it's exactly what Apple said it was. And we have wasted far more energy on talking about this than the actual difference in the chipsets. But internet Ren.
Surprise, which is to say, not surprised at all. Unfortunately, I love, not taking down companies, but like, I will point a finger when there are fingers to be pointed. But right now it feels like a lot of hot air over nothing, where it's like you might 20 minutes of battery life, maybe. It also depends. Battery life varies widely depending on how you use your device too. So I feel just frustrated by that.
Well, the really sad part is that this is in one dimension. So, for example, if you are mostly concerned with that 2 or 3% of battery life, then maybe the TSMC chip is better for you. But one of the theories as to why there's a difference is that the Samsung is a smaller process, so it's able to run hotter longer than the other chip, and that's why the battery life is less. It's because it's doing more work for a longer sustained period of time, and maybe for somebody they want the chip that can do more work at a sustained period of time, and then Samsung is better. But when you start like worrying about 2% here, 3% there, 10 seconds of longer optimal output, because a phone is the battery in the phone is a thermal insulator. They can't keep that chip hot for long. They've got to ramp it down, and they've been doing a lot to keep it ramped up. So you have all this multi-dimensional conversation that's being addressed in not even one dimension by people who really don't understand the technology and don't bother to learn about it before they publish, which I think is because I don't know, but it took me like 3 or 4 days of talking to really smart people
to actually understand what was going on. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I can provide Serenity, I can provide these kinds of things, and we've done this with a lot of Serenity's deep dives into music and photos are legendary by now. But I feel like that it's not first, but I feel like ultimately it's our jobs to do that. I wish people would take more time with this stuff.
Yeah, but hey, what's better than a giant screaming headline? Oh no.
Well, it was similar. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, you know what? I mean, we're not afraid to call people out if they've made a mistake, and we will if we see it.
No, for sure.
But regardless, we're going to learn about the facts first. And then if there's a problem, then we talk about it. And if there's not a problem, then we don't.
There was another one last week where purchased apps were disappearing from the purchase tabs, and people said, and there was a report that Apple, Apple was taking them away, and Apple had commented and it just rang true. And I know, friend of the show, Federico Ritchie was tweeting about it too. It just made no sense. And we asked about it, and it's like, no, it's the same bug that was on the Mac App Store last week, but this was after inches and inches of column ink was spilled over it. So,
Apple's taking away your purchased apps.
No, I mean, there will be a problem. Like the antenna gate, if you lived in an area with low reception and you covered the antenna, you would have a problem. If you lived in an area with better reception, again, multifaceted. If you lived in an area with better reception, you have even better reception. The bends last year, if you took a phone and they applied pressure to metal, you would bend it. But in most situations, it was a better chassis. And now this year, We have the 7000 series aluminum, which has been years in the making and is even sturdier for things like it's. Sorry, I'm getting cranky.
Oh no, no, I understand. I understand. I really, I enjoy when my technology works, and I enjoy when I don't have to tell my mother, no, you don't have to worry about this terrifying thing that people on NBC News are telling you is going to mess up your apps. Everything's
Yeah.
fine.
My mom asked me if she had the bad chip, but I wanted to cry.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, do you have the TMC chip? Oh, well, you're lucky. You can't talk about whether or not there's a battery life difference. It's like, no.
Yeah, Georgia was worried initially, and I'm talking out of school here because she's not here to defend herself, but I'm going to do it anyway. She was worried about it, and I asked her to take a look at her battery usage, and it was like 79% Candy Crush or something. And I'm like, no, the chipset is not your problem. Clearly, Candy Crush is your problem.
Yep.
So there it is. All right, and so we are going to deep dive into these Macs some more, these Magic things some more. You're looking at the watch. What else do you have coming up?
I have the watch, some new stuff from 12 South that I'm excited to look at. Let's see what else. The gold watch, of course. I've got the 4K iMac coming up, hopefully next week. And not quite technology related, but I just ordered a Casper mattress. Which is, a mattress that you can order online. And our friend of the show, Leo Laporte, loves it.
We jumped on them at CES.
Yes, we did jump on them at CES, and I remembered good times of jumping on them. And my parents bought one, and then our poor cat got locked in our bedroom while we were gone in Philly this weekend. So our old mattress has, shall we say, gone to a better place.
Cats do not internalize their displeasure.
No, they do not. Poor cat. She's okay. She's fine. But as a result, I did some digging, and we decided to pick up a Casper. And better yet, the folks at Casper are amazing. And when I was like, hey, so I know it normally takes like 7 days to ship something, but my mother is showing up on Wednesday and I really need a bed. And they're like, yeah, well, we'll overnight it for you. Don't stress. It's okay. So now I have a bed arriving tomorrow or tonight, this sometime today. And I'm excited about it. And we'll likely make a video because the unboxings are just too silly not to.
I have one here, and I like it a lot. And I because I got injured doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a lot, I end up learning quite a bit about physical therapy for my own sake. And most people think they want a soft mattress or a waterbed or something, but those are terrible because when the
support your back, right?
Yeah, they don't support anything. So if nothing is supporting you, like all the gravity is on your body and it's just pulling you down, and your muscles have to tense to sort of hold your body posture. But the harder the mattress is, including a floor, military style, your body it can then relax, and all that tension goes out of it and into the structure that's supporting you. And Casper has a good blend. Like they have a solid foam core. They're not even a sponsor this week, and we're raving about it. A lot of our friends do have Casper sponsor codes this week, so I'll find one and include it in the show notes if you're interested. But Casper's awesome, so give them some love. Yeah. So I have one. Serenity's getting one. They're good stuff.
Yeah. I'll have my full review hopefully in the next week or so. Because why not review a mattress iMore? I'll put lots of iPhones on it, and we'll do it that way.
And maybe I'll put the video from CES at the end of this episode.
Yes,
it's fun.
CES songs. No, damn
it's gonna be in my head all day. I know. Well, actually, I still have you going 4K.
In 4K. Yes, yeah. I'm excited for 4K.
Magic 4K.
It will be my first Retina Mac, Rene. I have never had a Retina Mac. I've only had a Retina iPad and a Retina iPhone because I passed up. I like the MacBook Air, so I never got a portable Retina Mac, and I didn't jump into the MacBook. I'm still holding on to my 11-inch. This will be my first beautiful Retina screen.
Your eyes will thank you. They will no longer be torn apart by super large pixels.
I'm so excited. Honestly, the only bad thing is it's just going to mean I'm going to spend more time at my standing desk, which is probably actually good in the long run.
Yeah,
when you think about it.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for them to make a desk. Like they have desks that go from seating to standing. I'm waiting for some sadist to make one that does it quickly, so you have to actually do squats while you're working. I think that's the next wave.
I would watch that TV show.
All right, Ren, if people are interested in following you on these adventures, where can they go? They
can go to SETTERN Saturn at Twitter and Instagram, as well as on iMore.com. Oh, and a special bonus for people who don't care about technology, but do care about old-timey radio. The incomparable radio theater on the air is now broadcasting its first ever season.
So great.
There is a new episode coming out today, Tuesday, October 13th. I feature in it. We may be doing a Doctor Who spinoff. We'll see. But you should definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
Georgia, Guy English, and I got to play a bunch of really silly Canadians.
That's right. Rene was on episode 2.
Yeah.
So if you like radio theater, or if you like just silly stories, or you just like to see your favorite technology pundits horribly embarrassing themselves, check it out.
Check it out. Absolutely. You can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find all of us at iMore. On iTunes, you can find the audio version of this show on YouTube. That's youtube.com/iMore. It's iMore video. That's right.
iMore video.
You can find the video version of the show. I want to thank everybody for watching, for listening. If you have any questions you want us to answer, just send them in, podcast@imore.com, and we will answer them in a future show. Thank you so much, Ren.
Thank you.
Bye, Internet.
Thank you, readers, listeners, viewers.
All the audiences.
All of the audiences. Thank you, audience.
Hey everyone, this is Rene.
I'm Serenity. I'm Georgia.
And we are here with Gabriel from Casper Mattresses. How's it going, Gabriel?
It's going great. How are you?
So what I love about your product is you deliver mattresses in tiny little boxes, and then like sea monkeys, they spring to full life.
That's right, like Shrinky Dinks.
Oh, like Shrinky Dinks. That's amazing. So what gave you guys this idea?
So, we went through the mattress buying experience. We found it totally convoluted and crazy. And we figured it's a terrible market, and we can build a way better product for a way better price. You have 100 days to try it. We'll take it back and give you a full refund if you don't like it.
Yeah, so the first time I heard about Casper is actually my mother saying, I found out about this great new mattress, and we're going to try it because they offer a money-back guarantee. And
that's an amazing way to do it, because usually you try out a mattress, and once you've tried it, you've bought it whether you like it or not. So you really must believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And it started at 40, and consumers loved it so much, and return rates were so low, so we just upped the number. Part of our mantra is it's hard to know in a showroom. You lie down, there's someone breathing over you, you got 15 minutes tops. The only way to know if it's right for you is to sleep on it and try it out in your own home.
And they actually sent me one of these a couple weeks ago, and I've been trying it, and it really is super cool because it just feels like all the stress is leaving your body.
I describe it as sleeping on a cloud. You've got one construction in all different sizes, and what you see is what you get.
So if people are interested, where can they go? Where can they find this information?
Just go to Casper.com. You can buy it all there. It comes to you within a couple days, and you open up the box and release your Casper into the world. It's $850 for a queen and $950 for a king or Cal King. So it's way, way cheaper than you could get in a retail store, for sure.
It's great to sleep on it, but really what you want to do on top of a mattress? Let's do it.
This is Rene from iMore. I am with Serenity and Georgia. We are at Casper. Check out their mattresses.